and they're just going to outproduce law enforcement. They're going to rip 4 or 5 of their grows when they got 40 more going down the road. And it's kind of an attrition, a cost of doing business, cost benefit analysis.
Question though on that.
A cannabis leader from the California Growers Association would panel it. Legislators and growers would speak on what the legislation was going to be. And then they'd have me there in camo, got a PowerPoint up, and they're looking at this first cop that's ever been at a grower meeting. They keep in mind, bro, these are growers that have been black market for 20 years. Cash business. They're coming out of the dark, going to like a veterans hall in Santa Cruz, which is where one of them was, ironically, from our old stomps.
Yeah, we get so many Santa Cruz people in here. It's so bizarre. And Alessi's from Santa Cruz.
Yeah. And so Alessi will appreciate this one.
Was one of them Luis Navia? Oh, so we can sell the for legal now.
Louis might have been there. No. Louis, no offense, I do not personally remember you there, but if you were, it would have been an honor.
Yeah, that's that guy, like the way he talks about Santa Cruz, very different from everyone else. He's like, oh yeah, we were out there drinking, smoking, fucking. It was amazing. I'm like, is this your Santa Cruz, Alessi?
Hey man, it's Lost Boys legacy,
Sounds awesome.
man. Yeah, Alessi, we were talking about Lost Boys. Anything goes on that boardwalk, baby.
Yeah.
In Santa Cruz. But so I go to this first meeting, and the eyes of these girls are like, what's he doing here? Cop. He's looking at our license plates. These probably guys casing us. I'm like, oh, time out. Everybody breathe. Take a minute. This is who I am.
A joint on stage.
Yeah, just pretending, all non-herbal. No. But I take like that big time out and go, guys, I'm going to tell a story. We're here to educate. We're not arresting anybody. You're about to go into legal regulation. You're going to have to register. But I want to show you what we're fighting, that you're part of the fight for. And the PowerPoint pictures that are in the book, right? Dead mountain lions, black bears and their baby cubs frothing at the mouth, dead in trees from ingesting these neurotoxins from grow. Punji pits, Vietnam era punji pits, anti-personnel for hikers and kids to walk into in national parks that, my relatives fought in Vietnam, and what a punji pit is, the Viet Cong putting out these bamboo stakes underground for our soldiers to fall into, unlike the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And seeing the AK-47s and the bad guys we caught and our dogs being stabbed, and they're crying. I had growers so outraged at that. They were crying their eyes out going, that's not us. We don't do any, and the water stealing and the pink toxic stuff in this water that they're taking out of these creeks and decimating these fisheries. They were heartbroken, a percentage of them. And it made me realize, okay, well, then this is just a law that we're dealing with. We're dealing with a statute. These people aren't destroying the environment. They're just growing weed, making money. So let's get them in our backs. And they termed us their Earth Warriors and said, that's what we're about. And we're going to give this regulation a shot. We're going to come out of the dark. We're going to pay the money if we can afford it. We're now going to be overt. We're going to pay taxes, blah, blah, blah. And now they're getting run out. They can't afford to do it. So they're going back into the black market or getting out of the industry entirely.
How do they do, now that they've shown themselves, though, how do they do that? Because, they have their fields where they grow it, and now we know where they are. They just suddenly we're black market now. Oh, yeah. Okay, no problem, not coming in.
Or move operations, collaborate with somebody. A lot of them are just going into different markets as well. They're going into hemp production, non-THC content stuff that they can do regulated. They're going into, other type of herbs, medicinal herbs that aren't on the cannabis spectrum. But when we watered that crime down in California for outdoor or indoor illegal growing from a felony to a misdemeanor, and then made it an infraction for a juvenile grower, someone under 18, the cartels went, this is going to be great. Home free. Disneyland e-ticket rides all day long. I got a free pass. Well, when it was a felony and they could be arrested on site, they've got guns, they're doing an illegal grow, they've got the poisons, we arrest them, it's a felony. So they're a deportable felon. If they're on a watch list, and many of them were and are, that we would catch from the different cartel factions in Mexico, that we could deport them, and now they're a deportable felon. They're going to be handled in Mexico through that criminal justice system, or we're going to prosecute them if they're not a deportable felon and they are a citizen, which very few were, through the justice system because of the felony statute. A misdemeanor, 6 plants illegal grown is a misdemeanor in California. 6,000 plants is a misdemeanor. So all these guys are going to do is they're going to get their plants ripped. They're not going to be prosecuted for that crime unless you have human trafficking and you get some real aggressive poisons that are felonies. And they're just going to outproduce law enforcement. They're going to rip 4 or 5 of their grows when they got 40 more going down the road. And it's kind of an attrition, a cost of doing business, cost benefit analysis.
Question though on that.
Try to answer.
Here's what I'm still a little confused about though. If you move it down to a misdemeanor and you catch your regular black market guy, Rob, doing this, who's just growing plants and whatever, okay, then you're only allowed to call it a misdemeanor. You can only take 6 of his plants. And just like you said with the cartel example, he's still got 40 behind here. So whatever, he wins.
Right.
When you catch the cartel guy, though, number one, usually they're here illegally.
Right.
Number two, they're carrying weapons that I'll bet you aren't registered with the California state.
Very
and
correct.
I know that's like a huge felony, whatever. So point being, like, isn't the weed crime kind of the least of your worries when you know you're going to catch them on fucking 12 other things anyway that are not changing from felony to misdemeanor?
Yeah, in good cases where we have all those felonies, they're going to go through and we're going to push it. But when we are in a sanctuary state, which California became right as we were starting this team, we were told not to talk to federal agents. We were told not to talk to ICE or Border Protection that were embedded and on standby with us.
You're told not to talk with them.
Not to talk with them or share information. Now check this out. We're not only state law enforcement officers. I have a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service ID. I am deputized federally when I get out of the academy. We can enforce federal regulations related to wildlife trafficking or anything related on a federal level. We're also mandated by policy to work with any federal agency that needs our help. If FBI calls me up and says, hey, Lieutenant, we got this murder investigation going that might have went down in a grow, or it might have been around, let's say somebody was shot, maliciously in not a hunting accident, but it happened in that situation. Of course, I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to work with that brother or sister, get them the information they need and solve the crime. And we were actually told, do not talk to ICE. This guy you have in custody, you got in a gunfight with. The book chapter goes into it on our last gunfight that I was involved in with my team in 2017 of the 6 we've been involved in. And it was mind-blowing. And that came straight down from governor's office down. My agency.
The great Gavin Newsom, he would never. Come on.
I don't remember.
Greatest governor in American history.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was old Newsom or if it was Brown at the time, but I think it might have been our latest governor.
Those California values are very, very important. They're great.
So
nothing bad about them.
And 2 things going on. We have cannabis just got regulated, and we want it to succeed because everybody saw the dollar signs, including our government, right? And every state that's mimicked California since, Maine, Michigan, Oklahoma, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, New Mexico, they're all having the same shit show right now. And I've been teaching and speaking and training these groups about, hey, this is what we did in California, why we formed up this unit. And this is the pitfalls we're having. And we are out there aggressively trying to fight the problem, but it is literally whack-a-mole, man. I mean, we're being outproduced and we're not stopping the problem. And I've always said, what's the solution? You have to look at everything that goes with illegal cannabis, not as anything against weed, but you have to put the felony back in it. That's the cartels will slow the roll, or at least have a little bit of deterrence that, hey, we're going to get arrested and we're going to get deported, or we're going to get actual, in custody time. And we're going to add those additional crimes like banned poisons that are felonies, right?
Banned poison?
Yeah. The banned poisons and toxics that they put on that cannabis.
Oh, right.
Some of the pictures I have in Hidden War in the latest book, any of that guns, human that we see, right, inside all of these grow sites, that's what we need to do. We need to look at it as an environmental catastrophe, a public safety catastrophe, and just take weed out of it.
Yeah.
I was quoted.
That feels like the focus where it should. That's like missing the forest for the trees. No?
Right. People are automatically going, it's weed, we're going to turn away from it, But I was quoted by the Associated Press, like, I don't know, a decade or so ago. And I said, look, if cherry tomatoes were on the black market right now and yielding $4,000 a pound, and the cartels were spraying carbofuran on it so an animal didn't even take a little piece of that real expensive cherry tomato, then we would be having these discussions and gunfights and public safety threats and all this other crime around cherry tomatoes. So take weed out of it. Just look at the incentivized money that's being made. And we know regulation doesn't work, at least the way we structured it, because now the black market is double, if not triple, quadruple what it was before we regulated in 2016. So all those naysayers that said you guys are going to be out of a job, now in California as an example, over 100 game wardens are dedicated to the cannabis enforcement program. Not all of them are on the tactical unit, the MET unit, but there's all these different watershed teams that's all they do. And they're hitting, I'd say, optimistically 10% of the problem, probably much less than that.
All right. I have so many questions here and so many I'm wondering how this all goes down, like everything you're saying across different agencies, like you've been mentioning, like task force and stuff like that.
Right.
And I don't want to get lost in that because I kind of want to come back to the beginning of where, like, when you first got on the job and when you first noticed this was
First
a problem.
saw it. Yeah, yeah.
But real quick, the one thing I do want to stay with, because it's come up like 5 times, that whole thing about the state telling you you can't communicate with federal officers. Now, I understand you work for the California
Correct.
state here. You're not a federal guy. You work for California Fish and Game.
Correct.
If you did communicate, though, with those federal officers, is that illegal? It feels like the state is circumventing, and I believe in state rights and everything. I understand some of the issue here, but like in this case, the state is purposely circumventing federal agencies' ability to
Correct.
do their job that they quite literally have jurisdiction over. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong at all. Julian, you hit it, bro, straight up on the head. That's exactly what happened. And it was because...
Watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.